Welcome everybody to Train Tuesday night, I might add. Happy to have you aboard, and welcome to our new format. We're starting 2022 with a new format, a Y730, because you asked for it. We sent out a survey back this past fall, and we wanted to see what time would work the best for you. And the 7:30, 7 o'clock time period seemed to work the best. That was the one we got the most votes for. That way, we're not broadcasting in the middle of the afternoon when a lot of you may be at work or with some other appointments. So we're going to try this for a while and see how you guys like it. But let's do what we always do. Let's go ahead and see who's joining us tonight. So we've got Dave, BNSF N-Scale. Are we keeping you up late, Jim? No, you're not. Zach is here. Terry is here. Let's see, Mark, Robert, Abel, and DJ Model Works is in the house. We're going to want to stick around because we've got some stuff to talk about there. We got Ricky Keel. Howdy, sir. We got Pedro, Mark, and Bob. So like I was saying, yeah, this is our new format. We're going to start doing our live feeds later in the day. So 7:30 Central Time. So it's a little bit later for you folks on the East Coast. But coming from the East Coast, I know 8:30 is not generally all that late. And this is just a half-hour show. For our friends out on the West Coast, this might be a little bit easier for you. Hopefully you're just coming home from work and just getting to the point of relaxing. So let's do some more shout-outs, shall we? We've got Anthony, and we've got Claire. We've got Forrest. Oh, yeah, we got Rory. We got CSXGE ET44AC, very specific name there. We've got Kyle, KC, Joseph, Harold. Welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for joining me. So we've got something really interesting planned for you guys tonight. So let's do what we always do. For those of you that are joining us live for the first time, go ahead, get into the comfortable position in your chair, put the hobby knife down, grab the beverage of your choice, and let's get started with another Train Tuesday. Now, if I was going to classify this particular segment, I'd have to say the name of the show would be something that would go along the lines of something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. We're going to be talking about some six-axle, somewhat modern power today. And I think you guys, you fans of EMD, you're going to be in for a real treat because January, we're starting the year off with some big stuff. And speaking of which, let's bring these guys in on the set here. We are talking about the SD90 MAC. So you could say we've got Big Macs to talk about tonight. So this is the SD90 MAC, but this is the MAC-H. Now, we've done variants of the 90 in the past, but those are the 9043s, different phases, later phases. This is the MAC-H. Okay, this was the original SD90 MAC. And I remember reading about this in one of the train publications back in the 90s and just thinking how much of a monster locomotive this was, and was really interested to see who was going to buy this locomotive. And of course, it's no surprise now, Union Pacific led the charge in that order. But before Union Pacific picked theirs up, this one that we've got shown here, and this is the first time we've ever done this. This is brand new tooling for us. This one right here is 8204. It's the only one that wore these colors. This is the colors that EMD painted it. Really striking blue and teal with the white. It was also in conjunction for the 75th anniversary of EMD. So it was a pretty important time. In fact, I think I've got another picture here I can show you guys. So this is here's 8204. No doubt as to where this picture was taken. This picture comes from the Kevin U. Daly collection, but this was taken in September of 1997. And got some other EMD fans there too, if you look. Now, as you probably know, EMD being the locomotive division of General Motors, it's kind of neat that they did this picture. And of course, a lot of you know that there's another locomotive that was actually styled from the same department that styled the original Corvette. So kind of a cool picture they got there. But anyways, 8204, it was on tour. It was really known for this paint scheme. And like I said, about 1997. I had two other stablemates, and they toured the country with their dynamometer car. And UP, of course, was the first one and pretty much the only one to step up to the plate and order theirs. And we are doing them in 4 different road numbers. What we've got here is 8503. This is the first of the renumbering. These were originally delivered. This one was 8203 originally. But standard, UP fare here. You've got your Armor Yellow, your Harbor Mist Gray. You still are in the era of red sills because we're talking 1997, or so you're in the late 90s, early 2000s. Here's 8520. This one's a little bit different. We are doing 8520. It's modeled with the starter capacitor removed and the end of train device is mounted further forward on the fuel tank. Just those little details that our developers strive to find. And of course, we have 8509, same thing. Starter capacitor has been removed. The end of train device has moved forward of the fuel tank. So like I said, this is Genesis 2.0. We've never released this model before. We've done variants of it, but what a lot of folks may not realize is the original H model had a totally different cab than the 90s that we've offered in the past. If we look, in fact, let's go back to that picture that was taken in LaGrange. Take a close look at the way the cab is. Okay, this is the original safety cab. Later variants of the SD90, they would have that chiseled nose to them. That was actually something Union Pacific asked for. But this is the original safety cab. Really, it's a lot like the locomotive we're going to talk about next. So this is all new tooling. Now, you might think, okay, Jim, the developer put the original cab on and called it good. It's not quite that simple. There's a lot more that goes into it. And in the coming weeks, we'll talk a little bit more about it. In fact, we're going to be introducing a new live stream that will be coming on the weekends. And we'll go in depth on not just the models, but the prototypes and talk to some of the people that had something to do with the prototypes. So again, Genesis 2.0, what does that mean? If you're not familiar with Genesis 2.0, your biggest thing is your lighting features. Standard Genesis locomotives are going to have LED headlights. They're going to have LED ditch lights as appropriate to the era that the model is modeled after. But we go one step further. These have ground lights. These have illuminated number boards. Now, one of the things that we hear from previous Genesis 2.0 releases, say the -9s, or if you just got your SD70 ACUs, you can adjust the lighting on those. When they come from the factory, both the number boards and the ground lights, they're dim. They're done that way for a reason, because in real life, they're not like bright halogen or LED lights. They're just a low, soft light. The ground lights, so the crew can see if the ground is moving before they disembark from the train. And of course, number boards, they're just there to identify a number. So if those are too dark for you, you can certainly go into your CV settings and adjust those accordingly. And you can do that all separately. It's not just one light bulb in there powering all these lighting features. It's all individual LED lights. And yeah, it's just a really great feature. So let's move on a little bit. We'll stop here with 8509. So going on with our theme, it seems hard to believe, but the SD90 and the SD80 that we're going to talk about here in a minute too, I guess you could say it's something old. It's hard to believe that that was over 25 years ago. Locomotives have certainly changed quite a bit since then. But these locomotives paved the way for the AC power that is so prevalent on today's Class 1s and Class 2s. But it was also one of the last times we would see the big horsepower wars. And remember, Union Pacific was not shy about buying locomotives that were big and powerful, such as the Big Boy, the turbines, the DD40AXs, things of that nature. This was kind of that big locomotive of its era. And for me anyways, it really caught my eye. It really was something amazing, especially being in the Northeast and rail fanning older Alcos and first generation EMDs. This was something out of the space age. And it was just a monster locomotive seeing these in the Northeast. Now, I didn't see the SD90s until I moved to Illinois, but I did get to see the SD80s. But before I go on to the SD80s, I want to look at any comments that we've got here. Because like I said, I don't always see your comments while I'm moving screens around. Michael says, coming from New England, I only saw Jeep 9s and 40s and 38s. Yeah, I pretty much did too until Conrail picked up some SD80s. I did get to see those when I went to Western Massachusetts. Yes, the SD90 MAC-H with phase 1 cab, and that's what we're talking about. That's one of the details that the developers have spent a lot of time on. We didn't simply just take a cab from an existing model and throw it on there. There's a lot more to it. All right, let's see what else we've got. All right. Now, everything that we're talking about today, I do see some questions about what we're going to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about Genesis models. Next week, we're going to talk about Genesis models and some ready-to-roll models. And then we'll finish up the month talking about more ready-to-roll and some roundhouse models. So each Train Tuesday, if you're not familiar with our format, each week we pick specific items from the month release, and we talk about them a little bit more in depth. Not available in N scale. We're just going to do these in HO for right now, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen in the future in N scale. Yeah, nice looking locomotive. And again, you got to realize in 1997, this was cutting edge. This is the beginning, you know, for the younger folks in the audience. This is the beginning of the safety cabs being standard. This is the beginning of 6 axles really just dominating Class 1s. You slowly saw the 4-axle Jeeps being relegated to switching duties. And even now, if we look at current day operations like BNSF out of Galesburg, they're using SD40-2s now, which were mainline freight when I first moved here. Really, really cool. All right, so like I said, years and years and years ago, I did get to see a Conrail SD80 when Conrail was still around. I used to do a lot of rail fanning at Conrail in Western Massachusetts. And we'll talk more about it on the weekend live. But I had a chance to actually see one of these Conrail SD80s in person. And again, after rail fanning mainly locomotives that were older Alcos and first and second generation EMDs, this thing was a monster. And of course, the other thing I remember too is going inside of the cab and seeing a touchscreen cab. I thought that was like Star Trek. No control stand on these guys. It was really cool. You know, it was one of those things where not all of the crews like that technology, but definitely did pave the way for a lot of the things that we see now and take for granted. So let's see what we've got here. All right, so like I said, Conrail SD80s. You know, it's one of those things I kind of remember East Coast SD80s, West Coast SD90s. What about the Midwest? Well, we got a surprise for you guys at the end of the lineup of SD80s because we kind of had some fun. Our developers found some neat information, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first up here is 4108. Now, 4108, this was one of the ones from the original delivery. A little bit of background on these. Conrail placed an order for 30 of these SD80 Macs, and they were the sole original purchaser. They were painted like the then new, recently delivered SD70 Macs. If you're on the East Coast, rail fanning, Conrail at the time, you remember they had kind of had that white face, that white gull paint scheme on the nose. Well, they've copied that same paint scheme. And this would ultimately be the last order that Conrail would do. It was soon after that in 1999, they were split up between CSX and Norfolk Southern. And so we're going to offer the Conrail guys. I know you guys are out there because we get a lot of requests for Conrail. So we're offering these in Conrail. We're doing some other road names that we've not done in the past and some road names that we have done in the past, and as well as some paint schemes we've not done on these models. So we're doing Prime for Grime. We're doing Norfolk Southern. So Norfolk Southern fans, take note. If you're doing early 2000s, this is a really cool period for you because you can break up your fleet a little bit. This one here, 7200. A bunch of these SD80 Macs, of course, they went to Norfolk Southern. They were hastily patched with new numbers. And if you can see here, I'll zoom in on this a little bit. You can kind of see on the cab, it's NS. But these are in our Prime for Grime. And what makes these really interesting is they're faded out. They're not as bright and shiny as the Conrail ones because they've been on the job for a little bit. 7200, this has a black nose anti-glare patch. You can kind of see here. And this one also has the 5-chime horn and a white patch with the black numbers. They did variations on this. I mean, at the time, they just wanted to get these things on the road. So they classified them into their numbering system and sent them on their way. Here's 7212, another Prime for Grime example. This one's got a faded out white on the nose, and it's also got a black patch with the NS. I'll zoom in on there so you can see that. This one's got a Leslie 3-chime, which does really sound nice with the Soundtracks decoders. Here's another one. You'll notice too, we've tried, our artists have tried to show you the Prime for Grime. The blues on these locomotives, they faded out like a good pair of blue jeans. I vaguely remember seeing these in both Norfolk Southern and Conrail patched like this. Take a look at the front here. I'll kind of zoom in on this. This is what we're going to be doing with the Prime for Grime. So you've got the road wear. You know, the vinyl is slowly chipped away. This one's got the white patch. This one also has a Leslie 5-chime. Or I'm sorry, it's actually a Leslie 3-chime. So Norfolk Southern fans, if you're modeling, you know, late 1999 after the breakup into the early 2000s, you'll definitely want to grab a few of these. And it's kind of cool. It's another interesting era in our railroading history. Now this one is, I'm really excited about this one. Of course, CSX also got some of these SD80s. And most of them, for the most part, they were painted in the YN3, the dark future as rail fans call it. But there was one locomotive that actually got the YN2 paint scheme, and I've got it shown here. This is 801. And, you know, it just depends, I guess, on where you, what side of the aisle you are on CSX paint schemes. But I always thought the YN2 paint scheme was one of the really nicer of the paint schemes. It was a bright color. Everything looked just spot on with these. Now, everything that I'm talking about here today, these are from the January release. This is all for pre-orders. You have till the 28th of January to pre-order anything that we're talking about here tonight. They'll be delivered next year. So it's just like ordering a real locomotive. You know, our locomotives are so prototype specific that just like a railroad, you've got to order in a year in advance. and you'll have them delivered to you a year later. Now, it's one of those things where you do want to pre-order, because a lot of guys, well, they don't always do that. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people. And you're sorely disappointed when you see your buddy walking out of the hobby shop with his new model and you didn't pre-order yours and they just sold the last one to somebody before you. So just play it safe, pre-order anything that you see here. You've got till Friday, January 28th on any of these items. So back to 801. The YN2 paint scheme. Rail fans in my area called it the bright future. It was a paint scheme developed really because they were trying to decrease grade crossing accents. That bright yellow with the blue and gray really broke up those colors. And it worked really well. You kind of had that hockey stick paint scheme. And growing up on the East Coast, I'd see these as I was going into New York. So we had to do this paint scheme. 801 is just really cool. It was the only one that got this paint scheme. In fact, I think, yep, like I say, pictures or it never happened. Here's 801 right here. This was actually photographed in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin back in 2001. This is a Tom Farrell picture, and this is from the Paul K. Withers collection. And I mean, wow, that's just a really cool locomotive. I mean, I'm kind of partial to the Conrail blue myself, but the CSX really dresses up that locomotive. And look here, look closely. There's the Conrail specific item right there, those red classification lights. I'm zooming in on it so you can see it. It's kind of in the shadows. So this is before they plated over those. You can see another one of its stablemates right behind it if I zoom in. 810. And there's those red classification lights. Another angle of 801. This was a little bit earlier in its career and its paint scheme. 801 here is in Montgomery, Alabama, September 17th of 2000. This is a Greg Williamson photo, also from the Paul K. Withers collection. And there we go again, spotting feature. It's neat, you know, they kept them. Later on, Norfolk Southern, they would plate over theirs. In some cases, Norfolk Southern just painted over them. They left the lenses on and everything, just painted them. Now, eventually 801 did get patched, and we're offering that one. It became 4591, so it stayed, you know, it kept its YN2 paint scheme a little bit longer. But if you look carefully at the patch, it's almost as if it's a sign of things to come. There's that darker blue, almost like it reminds me of a modern version of enchantment blue, a B&O color. You can see that coming through now. So we're going to do 4591 as well. Now, we know there are fans of the YN3, and it is a classy paint scheme. Again, that blue, very reminiscent to me anyways of a modern version of B&O Enchantment Blue. It's a real dark blue. The yellow is kind of given way to more of a gold. So it's an attractive paint scheme in its own right. So 4590, this is a YN3 repaint. It's also the Spirit of Benning. Has a Leslie 3-chime horn. And what was common with CSX, the roof is painted white. It does have a GPS dome included. So CSX guys, Norfolk Southern guys, we got you set. Conrail guys from 97 right up until the end, we've got you guys. But here's something that our developers ran into. Now, again, we try to put every effort as possible in our models to make them accurate. These aren't just simply factory models. These are custom built. And they're custom built to the specs of each developer that we have here at Athearn. Now keep in mind that our developers at Athearn, they're model railroaders like you. So they have an eye for detail, and they will spend hours researching these models, making sure that the paint schemes are accurate, the details are there. And one of the things that they came upon was an order or some wordage of such of an order for Chicago Northwestern. So we figured, you know what, we should probably do something in our legendary liveries line. So now we've got everything covered. We've got the East Coast, the West Coast, and we've got the Midwest. And you can't get more Midwest than the Chicago Northwestern. A lot of us lament its passing. And it's a great paint scheme on the SD80. So a little bit of background on these. According to some reports, C&NW signed a letter of intent to EMD to order a minimum of 15 of these SD80 MACs in mid-1994. Because of the 1995 merger with UP, the order was canceled and the project delivery to be mid-1995 was canceled. The units were to be constructed as an add-on to the Conrail order, were to have been used in pairs on Wisconsin Electric coal trains, and were to have been numbered 8101 through 8115. The C&NW SD80 MACs feature a Conrail-style details and are painted in the attractive lightning stripe scheme with Operation Lifesaver logos. That's cool. And it's one of those things, it's a legendary livery. Could it have happened? It could have happened. It was real close to happening. And we also realize that there are a lot of modelers out there that like to model railroads that are long gone, but maybe they model them in a different era. And this gives you the opportunity to model if C&NW never went away. If C&NW was still riding the rails today, it's very possible we would be seeing these here in the Midwest. Really cool paint scheme. So again, both the SD80, both the SD90, they are both Genesis 2.0. They are available with the Tsunami or without the Tsunami decoder. And they're going to have all the lighting features, such as the illuminated lighting number boards, ground lights, headlights, ditch lights. You're going to have the see-through grid style pattern on the steps. You're going to have detail-specific locomotives. You remember me reading about the Norfolk Southern and the CSX former Conrail units. Some of them had Leslie 3 chimes. Some of them had 5 chime. Everything is specific to the actual unit number. So, I actually have from the last release, which came out last March, I've got, there we go. I've got one of the SD80s here in the studio. And this is, it's kind of spooky how I can remember seeing one of these just like this over 25 years ago. And let me see if I can get some sound on here. There we go. Yeah, so great sound. This has got the Tsunami 2. And of course, you've got operating ditch lights. You can see the number boards there, just kind of barely because the studio is really well lit. Of course, your headlight. Here's one thing that I appreciate that the developers and the guys at Soundtracks did. Watch when I shut the headlight off. It just fades out, and it looks so prototypical. I love that. So great locomotive. This is from the previous run. This is from the previous run that we announced back in 2020, and they were delivered last spring. And actually, if you want to take a look at one of these in a review, if you go over to DG Model Works, he did a review on both a Norfolk Southern painted version as well as a Conrail version. And yeah, it's definitely, it just amazes me what we come up with. Years ago, this would have been a brass model, and now it's It's a beautifully engineered plastic model. Just amazing. So you've got until the end of this month, Friday, January 28th, place your pre-order with your dealer on either the SD80 or the SD90, or maybe you just like big EMD 6-axle power and you want one of each. And with all the different paint schemes that we're offering this month, it's going to be hard to not find one that is going to be one of your favorites. So definitely talk to your dealer for the end of the month. I have a feeling that once some of these get into the shop's shelves, they're not going to last long, just like the first release of SD80s. All right, I'm going to do some changing up behind the scenes here, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to look at some of these questions that are coming across my screen. And let's see. So I'm seeing some questions on the AC 4400. They're coming. They are coming, trust me. We have not forgotten you guys. Paul says, I can hardly wait for those C&NW units. I can't wait to see what they look like in person. I think they're going to be awesome. They are, yeah. Let's see what's going on over, while I'm looking at comments. I don't see anything going on over there. Joseph's like, what about the AC 4400s? We're working on them, Joseph. Trust me. There's a reason why you don't see the developers on the show anymore. They are so busy working on not just that, but other things as well. Any updates on the second run of CP Heritage Locos? Not just yet. Patience. We didn't want to release them all at the same time because, well, that's even with the first run that we did, there was a lot of great paint schemes and we all have budgets. I'll leave it at that, but we are working on those, so don't worry. Ray's like, hey, how can I get some MU hoses for my SD70M that came last summer? They didn't have any. It didn't come in the locomotive. You know, one of the downsides to Genesis locomotives, and it's inherent to the locomotive, we put a lot of work into the detail of each model. And unfortunately, sometimes in shipping, well, we've all seen the YouTube videos of some of the carriers, how they treat our packages. They're not always super gentle. And sometimes those detail parts come off. If that happens to you, if you get your new locomotive from your dealer and there's a part missing or it's misplaced, go to the Athearn Contact Us page, and there is a email that you can, our service email. That'll get to our service department, and they will get in touch with you, and they will get that part for you. We try to make that as painless as possible because we know you got a railroad to run. I'm hearing something back here playing today. Let's see what else we've got. Mike wants to know any Alaska Railroad this year. I honestly don't know. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out this year, but I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I would say stay tuned. Let's see. Is Athearn making a GS4 or cab forward? Not that I'm aware of. Great suggestion, though. Ironically enough, GS4 is one of my favorite steam locomotives. Michael's got a question. He's like, Jim, the original paint scheme of these engines with the Conrail quality logo, or just say Conrail in the beginning? Well, if you're talking about the SD80s, they did say Conrail quality. It was about the early to mid 90s that Conrail kind of changed their logo a little bit. The can opener scheme, if you will, that can opener look that got smaller, and they added Conrail quality. And I remember watching the Bow power plant coal train come up from out west, and it was usually SD70s, Conrail SD70s, and I remember seeing that Conrail quality paint scheme. That was a new thing for them. But on the original paint scheme back in the day, it was just Conrail. It was more of a recent thing for Conrail to start putting the Conrail quality on their locomotives. But the SD80s, they always said Conrail quality. Zach is hitting close to home here. He says, Jim, how about some legendary liveries? New York Central Cigar Band, CB&Q Chinese Red, and Grand Trunk Western SD80 MAC. Those are all great paint schemes. I mean, those are definitely legendary liveries. Whether we'll do them on SD80s in the future, I don't know. We'll have to see. What we try to do, especially if it's a Genesis model like the C&Ws, we want it to be plausible. We don't want it to be a pure made-up thing. That's something from model railroading past, of just taking locomotive shells and painting them any color, regardless of the railroad actually had that model or not. With legendary liveries, especially in the Genesis line, we usually find some research out there that said, hey, you know what, this could have happened. And the C&Ws definitely could have happened. Let's see. You got some requests for some CN? You'll be seeing some CN. Don't worry. CN does very well for us. Alex has got a pretty good question. He says, hey, Jim, you always mention renumbering freight cars. Currently working on some C&NW patch Clem co-op grain from the last run. Any way to share current projects with Athearn products? So, yeah, a couple of things. We've got a video out on YouTube, so if you wanted to do some renumbering, we show you how to do that in detail. That's on our YouTube channel. By the way, while you're over there on the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you'll know every time we upload a new video. They're not all live. And any way for us to talk about future projects. I'm glad you brought that up. Starting this month, we are going to be having a little bit longer, a little bit more in-depth live stream for you guys to enjoy. And it's probably going to be Friday night or Saturday night. That way you can have it in the workshop and you've got something to listen to. And it's not going to be just me. It's going to be, sometimes we'll have our developers on. Sometimes we'll have one of our guests that we've had in the past. And sometimes we'll have an influencer on. So it's going to be a really fun night of talking about all the things that Athearn is working on, the stuff that's out there. Sometimes we'll have guests that will share prototype pictures and talk a little bit about it. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, right now, we've got a survey out there. We asked you what day would you like to see this live and what time. And right now, currently, the vote is pretty much Friday night at 7 o'clock Central Time. So that would be 8 o'clock Eastern. And you can do the different hours from there. But, you know, Saturday is a close second, followed by Sunday. So the voting stays open for a little bit longer. Look at our social media. We sent it out on Instagram and we sent it out on Facebook. And just a quick link to a survey and just fill that out. What time would you like to talk trains? And if you're like me, I'm sure you like to have something in the workshop while you're working on the layout. One other thing I want to mention too is we have TikTok now. All the kids are doing it. And yeah, the kids convinced me to do TikTok. So we've got a TikTok page now, Athearn Model Trains. Check us out. We've got some really cool things on there. We just released a video of the SD70 ACU, and we'll be uploading some more stuff. And then don't forget, we're going to be at Amherst Model Railroad Show the end of this month. I can't believe it's going to be the end of this month, but 28th and 29th, we're going to be in Springfield, Massachusetts, and we're going to have our booth there, and we're going to be showing you all the new stuff that's coming out, as well as some stuff that's just starting to see the light of day, some of the things that we've talked about in the past. We're really looking forward to that show and seeing you guys. All right, so I got something else I'd like to show you here. And let's see, I'm going to remove that. So let's see if I got some sound. Got some sound. Now, how many have gotten your SD70 ACUs? These, I was excited about these last year when we announced them. We announced them last October. It was either October or November. Now, remember what I said at the beginning of the episode? I said it's something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. SD90, something old, you know, SD80, something old. Something new, SD70, based on SD90s. Something borrowed? Well, both CP and Norfolk Southern, they bought the old SD90s from UP. Not quite borrowed, but definitely from another railroad. Something blue, we can say Conrail. Check these locomotives out. I don't know how many of you guys have had a chance to see these in person, but I'm just amazed at these locomotives. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. I'm just absolutely amazed at how well these look. And you know, the military models, they definitely have their allure. This is the CP naval version. And of course, we've done the CP Army version. But the Norfolk Southern, they just look classy. They look beautiful. In fact, while I've got your attention, I mentioned DG Model Works, and he's in the house too. He did a great video. I'm going to see if I can find it here. Here we go. Start playing this.
Video's gonna.
And so Derek did both CP versions and 2 Norfolk Southern versions in his video. And you know, if you've not seen his channel, I suggest go over to DG Model Works. Check out his video. He's a Norfolk Southern modeler. And he reviews all types of different locomotives and freight cars and such. And he picked up these locomotives recently and did a really great review on them. It's about a 25-minute video. So if you've seen these in the shop, or maybe you've seen them in you know, different places on your forums, Facebook, whatever, and you're saying, oh man, I don't know, you know, can I justify one of these? Go over, take a look at his review. It's a really great video. And like I said, 25-minute review. He is a Norfolk Southern modeler, so he knows the models in depth. And he goes over some great points on these locomotives. So yeah, again, that's DG Model Works. And he's got some great video shots here of these locomotives. Great sound quality. So there you have it. And let's go back to that ACU. It's so pretty. Just a beautiful locomotive. Now remember, these are Genesis 2.0. So same thing. They're going to have lit number boards. They're going to have ground lights. They've got the headlights, the ditch lights. The ditch lights on these are just nice and bright. Great sound. Now this one's got the Tsunami 2. So these are available at hobby shops right now. If you pre-ordered one of these, you probably already have one. If you have not pre-ordered one, then you might want to talk to your hobby shop or your dealer right now, because they are going to go quick. I can tell you that the CP military versions are going to be the first ones to go. And I want to thank, too, while I'm thinking of it, I want to thank Adam Meeks from CP for helping us, helping our development team to make such fantastic models. Just really, really. Is Genesis 2.0 DC friendly, preferably non-sound? Absolutely, Dave. Athearn will release Genesis locomotives, whether it be standard Genesis or Genesis 2.0. We deliver them with or without the Tsunami 2 sound decoder. So if you want to just operate standard DC, you can. If you want to put in something else other than a Tsunami, you can. So we try to leave it open. Again, our developers, and myself included, we're modelers. We want you guys to have choices. Michael bringing up some memories of one of the trains I was talking about earlier. Says, thank you, Jim, for the info. Modeling Nashua, New Hampshire as one part on my layout, as well as the Bow Coal train and seeing the Conrail come up through. So there you go, Michael. Depending on what era that is. Spent a lot of time rail fanning in Nashua back in the day. Another neat thing about Nashua is it's one of the branches of a certain paper company. All right. So a couple other questions I'm seeing. You can see our pricing. Everything that we have on our pricing on our website is retail. Those prices are going to be slightly higher than what you might see at your dealer. So contact your dealer for the absolute price. Keep in mind, too, that a lot of those dealers out there, if you're an NMRA member, they will provide you with a discount. So there's always an advantage of being an NMRA member. Okay, so we're going a little bit long tonight, but I had some really great stuff I wanted to share with you. And there's been some really great questions. I will pick out 2 more questions, and then we're going to call this a wrap. Michael says regarding the live feed that the monthly live feed, Friday or Saturday, works well for him. Yeah, it usually does for most of us. Can we see BNSF C44-9Ws? That's a great question, because I think I can. I didn't bring any with me tonight, but maybe I'll bring some next week. The BNSF Genesis 2-9s, they are in stock as well. They came on board with the SD70s, and these all came in this past week. So, and beautiful models. I really love those original Heritage 1 and Heritage 2 paint schemes. Oh, let's see. I just saw a question I want to answer. Where'd it go? Here it is, Tom. Any Rock Island stuff coming? Genesis Rock Island stuff. Development would kill me. I think you're going to be happy. Nothing this month, but I think you're going to be happy. Yes, Zach, I'm going to put your thing up there, and I missed this. I can't believe I missed this. He said, Jim, I had seen one of the CP Heritage SD70 ACUs on the BNSF Chillicothe sub last Monday in Galesburg. It was 7017. Yeah, I know. I'm a member of the Peoria area and the BNSF Chillicothe sub Facebook group. And I saw that, and I was like, if it was just a little bit closer, I would have been there with camera in hand. But Galesburg's about 2.5, 3 hours northwest of me. And by the time I saw that post on Facebook, it had already left. And but it was really cool. I wish I had seen that. All right, so don't forget, before we sign off, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can now find us on TikTok. We are flooding TikTok with train videos. It's not just a domain now for dancing and kittens. It has also got trains on it now. You can find us on YouTube. Go over to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and don't forget, we're going to start doing our monthly live feeds. We'll tell you more about it as we get closer to it. And it's going to be a weekend once a month. It's not always going to be the same weekend date. It's going to vary. But we're going to have special guests, and we'll talk about everything in that January or that month's pre-order release. And I think it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys are too. If you haven't done the survey, if you've seen the survey on Facebook or Instagram, go over there and put your opinion in. We'd like to hear from you guys. So until next time, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some modeling. Don't forget to stop by in Amherst and say hi to me and the guys. And above all, hi, Green, everybody. Have a good night, and thank you for a great 2021. Let's have a great 2022. Take care.